Well, good evening and welcome. This is News First Primetime News. I am Shaheen Durrangpati.
And I am Dasni Athabla. Let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
MP Jayantha Samarweera of the NFF remanded until the 5th of October. Minister Sajith Premadasa exposes corruption and irregularities that took place during the tenure of Vimal Weerawangsa as Housing Minister.
ඡන්දෙට වැඩ කරු නිලධාරීන් ගෙනාවලේ බඩිනාඩි සියල්ලක් එක්කම තියෙන චෙක් එක දෙනවා සල්ලිත් එක්ක බඩු නැහැ පාඩුව ලක්ෂ 270.
Onion farmers in Dambulla protest once again. Dry weather prevails. Water levels of natural springs decrease by 30%. Supreme Court decides that the human rights of a teacher has been violated. Panel of judges commend the revelation made by Newsfirst. Army commander assures national security.
Sri Lankaවේ බහුමික අඛණ්ඩතාවය ආරක්ෂා කිරීමටත් මහ ජනතාව සහ දේපල ආරක්ෂා කිරීමටත් ශ්‍රී ලංකා යුද හමුදාව කළ යුතු සියලු දේ කරනවා.
Bringing hunger to zero in Sri Lanka.
A statement by the UN resident coordinator.
The two-day international conference on right to information to commemorate the International Day on Right to Information commenced in Colombo under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena today.
The public decides the right and wrong of the messages conveyed by the media. Although we have ensured media freedom through the Constitution, the owners and top management of the electronic and print media give priority to their own whims and fancies. We should all look into our conscience with regard to how much freedom has been granted and should be granted to the free media. Creating the space for media freedom is the responsibility of the politicians. Regulating it is the responsibility of state officials. State and private media should consider their responsibilities and execute them in an honest manner. This is what the people of this country expect, and this is what the government expects.
We have accomplished the basic fundamental requirement in strengthening democracy through introducing RTI laws, which had been lying idle on the table for over 2 decades. The biggest challenge is ahead. That is the implementation of this act. That process has 2 parallel paths as we have identified. One path is the establishment of the independent commission, which is now in the process. The other is the establishment of the mechanism to provide information.
Information, ladies and gentlemen, is the basis of an open government, and disclosing inefficiency and corruption is the principal objective of an open government. In India, RTI has been used most significantly to combat corruption. Citizens frequently deal with government indifference and even harassment, due to which people become more vulnerable to exploitation by official employees and touts. This bureaucratic apathy is fed by lack of transparency, which in turn cause corruption. This logjam is best tackled through a series of steps, which I beseech Your Excellency that your government can take. Simplify rules and procedures, enable complete transparency, and proactively disseminate information. The success of implementation will depend hugely on the government's attitude.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe is due to leave the country tomorrow on a 3-day official visit to New Zealand. The Prime Minister's office, issuing a statement, said that Professor Maitri Wickremesinghe will also accompany the Prime Minister.
The statement further stated that this will be the first occasion on which a Sri Lankan Prime Minister would be holding bilateral discussions in New Zealand. The official ceremony to welcome Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe will be held at the Government House in Auckland on the 1st of October, followed by bilateral talks.
Army Commander Lieutenant General Krishantha De Silva paid homage to the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy today.
The Army Commander visited the Temple of the Tooth Relic to attend a flag blessing ceremony held in line with the 67th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Army and the Army Day. Lieutenant General Krishantha De Silva also engaged in a cordial discussion with the Dewada Nilame of the Temple of the Tooth Relic. As the Commander-in-Chief, the President has given special attention to each and every member of the Tri-Forces. We have taken steps to ensure that our war heroes receive their welfare benefits and receive professional training. I believe that this will ensure a better future for them. As the Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, I need to emphasize that we will dedicate ourselves to protect the territorial integrity of the nation as well as the property of all citizens. CCTV footage of the incident where the former chairman of the Galle District Cricket Association, Halamage Premasari, was shot dead was released to the media by the police today. The incident took place on the 12th of last month. The footage was released after a suspect was arrested in connection to the murder.
MP Jayantha Samaravira of the National Freedom Front was arrested by the police FCID today. The MP, who was remanded till the 5th of next month after being produced before the Fort Magistrates Court.
Parliamentarian Jayantha Samaravira appeared before the police FCID today to provide a statement with regard to allegations of misuse of vehicles belonging to the Presidential Secretariat. The MP expressed the following views to the media entering the FCID.
You are aware that we as the National Freedom Front are currently developing a force opposing the ETCA. We are against such agreements. We are against the witch hunt against our war heroes. We are against the introduction of a constitution that will divide the nation. This is why they are levelling absurd accusations against us. There are rogues in the good governance government. It is in this backdrop that they are picking on the leaders who love this country and are preventing acts against this country.
The parliamentarian was later arrested after a statement was recorded from him.
Welcome back. Still in local news, Minister of Housing and Construction Sajid Premadasa commented on the acts of corruption and irregularities which took place in his ministry under the previous administration.
Under the pretext of the war and under the pretext of patriotism, the clan of thieves got together to carry out all sorts of fraud and corruption within the Sri Lanka Engineers Association. As a result of that, you can see the dilapidated state of the Horana Galapatha Road. This has adversely affected the Sri Lanka Engineers Association. However, with greatest difficulty, we have obtained a loan of 750 million rupees on a treasury guarantee and carrying out our activities while ensuring that this institution remains a state institution. We are attempting to bring this institute back into operation. This is the name list of all the officers who are engaged in election duty. Details mentioned here include the salaries they received. The cheque is granted along with money, but there is no material. However, the loss incurred stands at 27 million rupees. Here are the details of the vehicles that were rented for political purposes. I initially mentioned that a loss of 16.9 million was incurred after using offices for political activities. But I have made a mistake with the figures. It's 1.69 million rupees.
Still in local news, the surveying of a plot of land in Dehiwala, which allegedly belongs to Yoshtha Rajapaksa's grandmother, Desi Forest, commenced today.
The surveying was carried out by the Survey Department of Sri Lanka. The surveying of the plot of land is being carried out following an order issued by the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court in response to a request made by the Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division. My brother is at the High Court today, and since my grandmother finds it difficult to come due to her old age, I am here on behalf of them. We always give our fullest cooperation to court orders, but I am disappointed in the way this government works. If you look at any court case in this country, someone from my family will be present before it. We do not ignore the court or the police. Under this regime, at least one member of our family will be at the FCID or at courts at any given time.
Recently, Vimal Vedavansa made a statement that if a body is exhumed, an election will be held. What is your take on this?
Since this government was elected, all they ever did was exhume bodies and survey lands or look into those who misappropriated vehicles belonging to the relevant ministries. But how many vehicles do the MPs of this regime use for their own purposes? People who live in glass houses should not throw stones at others. We request that the bodies that were buried during the 88 and 89 riots also be exhumed so that Ranil Wickremesinghe will be exposed to the world. There isn't a single hint of an election. This is because this government is scared of elections.
The inauguration of the National Strategic Review of Food Security and Nutrition was held in Colombo today.
The event, which was organized by the United Nations Colombo, saw the participation of many stakeholders of the health and agricultural sectors.
In Sri Lanka, governments have been very suspicious of non-governmental organizations, and in the past decade we have also seen not only suspicion but hatred being sown towards the international community. That is no more. That has ended. And this government, for the first time, has begun to invite and engage the private sector as well as the non-governmental organizations to participate in at least some of the government programs. The reconciliation program, which I have the privilege of leading, works with non-governmental organizations extensively to implement our programs. We don't believe that in such matters government can by itself achieve the required results unless we involve all of civil society.
Key understanding of the ecosystems and the impact of climate change are also going to be vital to reducing hunger globally, but bringing hunger to zero in Sri Lanka, which is so very, very much within our reach here. The UN defines how it will work in Sri Lanka in the coming years. This important model of this strategic review of SDG 2, or Zero Hunger, will serve as a model for us to look at how we can support the government with strategic reviews of other SDGs and how government is positioned to achieve those SDGs.
A media briefing was held at the Central Bank this evening.
In fact, we see growth picking up in the second half of this year. The first quarter, growth was revised down from 5.5 to 5.2%. Then in the second quarter, we got a disappointing growth figure of 2.6%. But there are some mitigating factors, and our expectation is, every quarter the growth figure is usually revised. Hopefully we will get a decent growth number for the fourth quarter. So if you take all that together, I think our expectation is that growth will be about 5% or a little bit more than that.
The governor also spoke on the investigations pertaining to the CBSL bond issue.
So if we get bogged down in trying to do all kinds of inquiries and things like that, it will be a problem. But what I said at the beginning was, if the Cope report does find some fault on the side of the central bank, there should be an inquiry. But in my view, it should be an external inquiry. If the central bank has done something wrong, it should not be the central bank that looks at that. Somebody from outside should do that. But for that, there has to be evidence that the central bank has done something wrong.
Now, even though mild showers were experienced in a number of areas, including Colombo this afternoon, the drought that is being experienced in several districts of the island, including the district of Polonnaruwa, continues to pose a threat to the livelihoods of people and animals alike. According to the Disaster Management Centre, the number of those affected by the prevalent drought conditions has exceeded the 156,500 mark.
The district of Polonnaruwa is the worst affected by the drought, with 70,431 individuals being affected. Batiklo, Trincomalee, Kilinochchi and Vaunia are some of the other districts that are affected by the drought. In this backdrop, with the waterways drying up, owing to the scorching conditions, the animals of the Minneria National Park were provided water via bowsers. This is a manner in which the wildlife officers created temporary watering holes for the fauna in the park. A meeting was held at the Polonnaru Divisional Secretariat to discuss steps that should be taken by the public to adapt to the drought in the area.
We have released all the necessary equipment and money to cope with the drought that has affected Polonnaru. We have sent the necessary funds to all the districts that are affected. We have the necessary funds if there remains a need for more funds.
It has been 3 months since the drought affected the district of Hambantota. Walasmulla, Kirena, Katuwana, Thangol, Rana and Angunukola Palasa are some of the main areas that have been severely affected. All the rivers and waterways are completely dried up in these areas. Water is provided to some areas through bowsers, but there are concerns that not all areas are covered by the relief operation.
We have been severely affected by the lack of water. There hasn't been even a drop of water to drink for about a month now. The water project ceased the water supply to the area 3 months ago.
Meanwhile, an operation was carried out by the Police Special Task Force and wildlife officers to track down poachers who have been exploiting the current conditions in Mattala Hambantota. Our correspondent added that 3 suspects were arrested along. The groundwater levels of the country have decreased by 30% due to the drought. Chairman of the Water Resources Board, ACM Zulfikar, said that many wells have dried up owing to this.
The reason for the drought is the short-lived monsoon rains. Only 40% of monsoon rains were experienced in most parts of the country. However, we are expecting intermonsoonal rains after the 10th of October.
When thousands of people are in distress due to the prevailing drought situation in the country, a major water leak was reported from the Kahalla area in Pathadumbara.
This ruptured main pipeline provides water to around 400 families in Kahalla under the Pathadumbara water supply project. Our correspondent said that water has been leaking from several places of the pipeline for weeks.
When we go and complain saying that this place is broken, they come and fix it. And after some days, another rupture appears. All these pipes are ruptured. This is a national crime. Vehicles travel over these pipes and they break. It is a wastage. No matter how much we complain, a permanent solution has not been provided.
When Newsfirst made inquiries from the Polgol office of the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, they said that the pipeline is in a dilapidated state. They went on to note that steps were taken to fix a water leak as soon as the officials were informed, and also that they were not informed of another water leak after the 20th.
It is a known fact that rain is of great value to a land that has not seen it in a very long time rather. In a similar manner, Gammadda is a great strength to the people who have been yearning for clean drinking water.
This was clear to us as we declared open 3 more projects under the Gammadda 100-day initiative today.
The residents of Sikuralanda, Hevelarava and Ilikapatana villages in Bibila have spent more than half of their lives searching for clean drinking water. Today, under the Gammadda 100-day initiative, we were able to provide a helping hand to these villagers.
We saw how everyone got together and worked towards this task. We saw it with our own eyes. Do we have racial and religious problems? No. If we unite, we can solve the problems of this country together. We can make our villages. We saw today that there is leadership within you.
We highly appreciate this task that you have undertaken. These infrastructure facilities that are required by the people are things that should be done by a local government body or a state body.
The Gammadda 100-day initiative, which commenced with the people for the people, moves forward from strength to strength with the support of the general public.
I wanted to do something on behalf of my parents who have passed away. I wanted to be part of this initiative in whatever extent I can. I will provide my fullest cooperation for this.
The Gammadda Saviya was also launched and members were enrolled on the sidelines of the event today. The residents of these villages who came forward with the problems they faced bore testament to the trust they have placed in the Gammadda 100-day initiative.
When the first and the second projects were carried out, we were excited. We had the belief that our village will also receive assistance through this. We have a lot of trust in this program.
Only you know the difficulty to find water. You are vested with the responsibility of protecting this.
The village with around 300 residents will soon be relieved from the difficulties they currently go through to obtain clean drinking water.
We saw areas in Polonnaruwa that lacked water, receiving water within 2 or 3 days. Sirasa is doing what the government could not do. The government had cut off Sirasa in the past, but now they have come to the forefront.
These children have been saved. We extend our heartfelt appreciation to Sirasa on behalf of the area residents.
The mission to relieve the people from their pain with the help and support of people who understand sorrow and hardships continues.
The Supreme Court annulled the disciplinary action taken by the Secretary to the Ministry of Education against a teacher who issued a statement to the media. Delivering the verdict on the case, the two-member bench notes that the disciplinary action against the teacher in question had violated her fundamental rights.
The services of the teacher in question attached to the Mahanama College, Colombo, was suspended on the 1st of February 2012. The suspension was made based on a statement the teacher had made to Action TV on the 27th of November 2012 over the failure of the Ministry of Education to conduct an investigation into an alleged harassment against her during school hours. 3 months later, the Supreme Court issued an injunction order against her suspension, opening the doorway for the fundamental rights petition filed by the teacher to be heard. Despite the Supreme Court's order, the Ministry of Education continued its investigation against the petitioner and, at its conclusion, revoked the teacher's increment and imposed a fine of 30,000 rupees. The decision with regard to her fundamental rights petition has been written by the Chief Justice. While Supreme Court Judge Anil Gunaratne issued the verdict on the hearing today, it says that as the Constitution assures that the freedom of expression is valid to all citizens equally, the Establishment Code cannot be used as a restraint on the freedom of expression of state employees. The verdict also determines that the disciplinary order issued by the Secretary to the Ministry of Education is in violation of 12(1) and 14(a) of the Constitution. The teacher accused of harassing the petitioner and the principal of Mahanama College, Colombo, at the time were both ordered to pay a sum of 100,000 rupees each to the teacher victimized by the incident. Action TV's expose on the matter was highly commended in open court by Supreme Court judges Anil Gunaratne and Priyanta Jayawardena.
A group of farmers in Dambulla staged a protest obstructing the A9 and A6 roads, demanding that their onions be given a certified price.
The protest commenced at around 10 a.m. opposite the Dambulla Special Economic Centre. Thereafter, the protesters arrived at the Dambulla Traders Association office and requested the chairman of the association, U.R. Dayananda, to shut down all shops at the Dambulla Special Economic Centre in support of the protest. Following this, the shops at the Dambulla Special Economic Centre were shut down for almost 2 hours. The protesters later gathered at the Dambulla Clock Tower and continued their demonstration. Heavy traffic congestion was reported along the A9 and A6 roads owing to the demonstration. The protesters continued on foot on the road adjoining the location where the Gammadua was staged and continued with their demonstration. Central Provincial Councillor Tissa Bandara, who arrived at the scene, communicated the demands of the farmers to the Mathare District Secretary as well as the State Minister of Agriculture. However, the protesters continued with their protest as they did not receive a satisfactory solution to their issue. The protesters dispersed following an order issued by the Dambulla Magistrates Court.
Well, before we move on to the next story, Dasini, a quick question I need to ask you. how would you generally like your cup of tea?
I'd say 2 teaspoonfuls of sugar.
Well, with that being said, I certainly wouldn't want this in my cup of tea. This, in fact, is sugar. Sugar that does not dissolve in water. This bizarre form of sugar was reported to Newsfirst from Colombo today.
This was revealed when Newsfirst reporter attended a media briefing today. An individual employed at a private organization in close proximity to Colombo informed our reporter following the media briefing. He revealed to Newsfirst that sugar that he had purchased turns into a wax-like substance when hot water was added into it. The sugar in question had been purchased from a grocery store in Dompe.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Dasnia Pada.
And I'm Shahin Jarampati. Good night and take care.